Something completely different.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside.
I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hairloss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Joseph W. Tillman, how are you, my friend?
Spencer X. Kobren. I'm just following suit there. I'm doing fine. Feeling relieved. I don't have to manage the sound duties today. It's all on you.
Dude, let me tell you something. It's not easy, as you know. You know, young guys today, people who are just getting into live streaming, you know, everything is built for them. So you can live stream on Facebook. You can live stream on different platforms. And you just kind of put on your cameras and you do your thing and you invite somebody in and that's it.
Yeah.
This takes a little bit of an effort to make this go smoothly and to get your sound done and your camera work done correctly and to be able to take calls correctly so everyone could hear everybody and everything runs smoothly. But with that said, the main event, get it? The main event, I think was a success this week, and I want to congratulate you on that.
Thank you. It was fun. Stressful, but fun. Got a lot of great comments, more privately than publicly, which thank you for all that, everyone. But, you know, share the love with everyone else. You know, it's like DMs are great and much appreciated, but put it in the comments section so it kicks in the algorithm, you know. But it was fun. And not only did I have Aaron Nussbaum as my first guest, then I had Jerry Cooley as my second guest, which was, you know, a great start to this broadcast. But IHRS accepted member Dr. Ken Anderson called in yesterday for the third episode, which was nice.
Really?
Technically the 7th episode, but yeah, he called in.
I did not know that.
Shared some thoughts and some nuggets of wisdom.
I should probably watch the show.
It'd be nice.
Yeah.
No, it was good. It was good. And I appreciate Dr. Anderson calling in. It was nice. And, of course, my thanks go out to Dr. Aaron Nussbaum and Dr. Jerry Cooley for making it a great start to the week.
Well, listen, you know, we have a lot to talk about, as we always do. We do have phone calls. The phone number is 888-659-3727. If you're new to the broadcast, this is the Hair Loss Show. I've been doing this program for about 26 years, and it seems like a long time. It's longer than many of you have been alive. But this is an evergreen industry, sadly, an evergreen market for the vulnerable. And every day there's 200,000, on average, hair loss sufferers waking up every day realizing that they're losing their hair for the first time and they are freaking the F out. And in this environment, sadly, as bad as it was when I started, and then when Joe started, it's insane. It is insane to try to find information. I have people on Instagram, now that I'm building somewhat of some relatively, you know, modicum of a following, putting a little effort into it, who actually want to take the time to argue with me about
I just felt that one tickled me.
Hair transplant surgery and just let me say this without being I don't want to sound obnoxious. I'm sure there's some stuff that I can still learn. You know, the industry is evolving. There's always new guys out there that are, you know, innovating. There may be a handful of doctors that I'm unaware of who are somehow miraculously able to cherry pick, you know, the most DHT-resistant hair in these huge 5,000 or 6,000 graft FUE cases. I don't know. But all I can tell you, young guys who are taking the time out of your day, because I'm not arguing back, I'm just like, thanks for the engagement, dude. There is a very strong chance that if you were around the age of 25, maybe 30, and you went to either a pop-up clinic or even a relatively well-established clinic overseas, and it had, I don't know, say 2,500 grafts placed into your hairline in a, 2-centimeter width of your hairline. It may look okay right now, but there's a very strong chance that you are not going to be too happy with it within a 5-year period. And with that said, if you had more than 2,500 grafts moved and placed into a small area, say you had 5,000 grafts moved, because you want a lot of density, and they promised you all this density, you're probably screwed. And if you utilized, and I hate to say it that way, but it's just the truth, and if you utilized your precious donor hair to transplant a beard, and you have some sort of a receding hairline at this point, and you're maybe 30, I see this all the time, there's a good chance you're not going to be happy in 5 years. And these are all cautionary tales that haven't come to fruition yet. But these guys are taking the time to argue with me or to somehow try to correct me or something. And that's fine. Again, thank you for the engagement. But I don't do this for my health.
That's another good one.
Yeah, I've been doing this for a very long time, and there's a reason why I'm trying to get myself out there through this relatively new medium of social media, as opposed to just walking away. Doesn't make a difference. Doesn't affect my income in any way, shape, or form. I could step back. I can put on the camera, do the show with Joe once a week for fun. Doesn't do a thing for me, except I kind of think I need to finish this. I need to finish what we started, and as things are getting worse, there's a lot of good guidance we could give these guys to maybe save some people from what will be a lifetime, unless something miraculous comes down the pike, a lifetime of possible misery. You think you're happy now at 30 years old, and your first cousin twice removed is thrilled with his Indian hair transplant or Turkish hair transplant or neograft hair transplant or whatever. See how thrilled he is in 5 years. That is the litmus test. That's a tough word for me. Litmus. I watched your show with Jerry Cooley, and, he said something that was probably, it's not something that's familiar in today's hair transplant vernacular or, just this landscape. That if you go above or below or to the sides of the sweet spot of a donor area, there's a very strong chance that the hair moved from that area will miniaturize. Mm-hmm. Now, it's possible for the hair in the sweet spot to miniaturize as well, but that could last you 2 decades or more, depending on how many grafts were removed. But if it's closer to the crown or closer to the nape, which is what everyone is doing now, that is a temporary hair transplant. You have to understand that. Unless maybe you were 45 when you got it done. And it's still kind of temporary, but at least you might get, a good decade out of it or more. And you're going to be old by then. You may not give a shit.
Yeah, because that's how it works. I'll be old, I won't care anymore.
You might not care as much. Or at least you have a longer period. If you haven't miniaturized in those areas significantly, if you've reached your 40s or 50s, there's a stronger chance that hair will last a longer period of time. Forget about,
speaking of which,
senile alopecia or aged alopecia, or what is it called? What's the other name for it? Senescent
alopecia.
Yeah. That happens too, guys. If you got that stuff put in your beard from above or below the donor area, enjoy that beard for a year or 2 years or 5 years, maybe. Go ahead, Joe. Sorry. I
have no idea what I was about
coming
to say.
to my Instagram. I want to provide them with solid information. They don't want to hear it. So you know what? Enjoy it. Enjoy yourself.
I got a great example of that.
Go ahead.
I got a great example of that, and I'm reminded about it by in the chat room XFreeGeoX, and he asked me a question. He goes, Joe, how about that guy pissed at Dr. Gurr for not going through the procedure he wasn't comfortable with extracting the grafts? This is a classic example of what you're talking about, arguing and going even further where you explain the answer and they're still upset. So there was a guy on Facebook, on the Hair Loss Conquerors Facebook group, and I don't go in there very often.
What are all these things you're involved in, dude, by the way?
No
one wants your help, except unless they find us here, they don't want your help.
On the contrary, I'm getting so many messages behind the scenes of people asking for my opinion. Go to my, like on Reddit especially, they're acknowledging, they're, saying thank you for being here, being a voice of reason. I've gotten these messages and I'm just like blown away that there's even a need for it, but, I'm not blown away, but sad that there's even a need for it in 2023, but it is what it is. But my point was...
By the way, again, never contradict me on the air. I'm kidding.
It's that whole arguing thing. So this guy starts a post about how he had a terrible experience, and I will name the doctor, Dr. Gurr. He's out of Istanbul, and he works at the same group as IAHRS accepted member Dr. Turan.
Yeah,
I think it's who.
We got to work on both names, by the way.
And he said that he went to this clinic, and not long into the surgery, the doctor stopped the surgery and said, "I'm sorry, but I can't continue. Your hair is too curly. I suggest that you find a clinic that can perform a good FUT strip surgery on you." What? In Turkey? I was blown away by that. And so I responded to this guy. I said, you didn't have a bad experience with Dr. Gurr. You had a great experience with Dr. Gurr.
You found an ethical doctor in Turkey.
He had the ethics to stop and say, I'm sorry, but I can't take your money because you won't be happy with the results. There's something wrong here. And I don't know, maybe there's probably more to it than what this guy shared. He even said the doctor was ethical, but he's talking about how it was a bad experience. It's like, you can't have both. It doesn't make sense. He saved you from making a mistake. And he was arguing with me on this. Arguing with me on the fact that the doctor did him a favor. And he was complaining, well, he should have known better. Like what? He's never worked on curly hair before? Well, and that's where I was saying there's probably something more to it. But still, it's like, how can you be how can you slander someone because they did the right thing?
It's in writing.
Or libel.
Libel. But I just like effing with you.
I know. Don't ever correct me on air.
Don't correct me on air. I will tell you this, that no one, and this is valuable information. There is not a surgeon, a real surgeon, who can tell you for sure, even if they do an assessment online, the best surgeons in the world, every time they open you up, and they do open you up with FUE, every scenario is different. Even if you have straight hair, it's possible that your grafts are splaying. But if you have curly hair, there's a very strong possibility that those grafts, that those follicular units are curling and to a point where they are not going to be able to get that punch around those splayed or curled follicles And he was probably transecting one after the other, and he's like, I can't do this. This guy, this is an impossible case for FUE.
What he said to himself was, I have a choice here. I can continue to try using the punches I normally use, or I can step up to a bigger punch and then risk the survival rate versus scarring after result ratio. Like what will be the balance between this? And he decided, you know what? No, I'm not going to go there.
Yeah, and the last thing this guy needs also is, in this particular environment, if he makes a choice like that, just to take the guy's check, and the guy walks around, he's going to put his head online and say, "Hey, what does this donor look normal, or do you think this is these punches are too big?"
Yeah.
Or
so apparently
the doctor told me he was going to do a point 0.08 punches, but he told me during the surgery that he won't be able to do that, and he switched punches out on me, even though he advised me that he was going to do that. They don't like to hear that shit either. This guy helped you, if you're listening to this show, person on the message forums. You dodged a bullet, my man. You dodged a bullet, and Joseph Tillman is right again. The phone number is 888-659-3727. But there's a guy, I just want to say this, and I'm going to take your calls on a second, callers, so hold on, please. There's a guy, and he seems like a really nice guy. He seems like a cool guy, someone who I wouldn't mind collabing with or whatever it is, online. But he got a beard hair transplant, and he's maybe 6 months out. And, the shadow looks okay, for sure. And I would say that the donor looks relatively okay. I was pretty impressed with it. Except the extent that the donor was utilized in order to get it to look the way that it did, much of that hair will not survive in time. It'll survive for a while. And I don't know if he's connected to the clinic now, which is very common. But he, in my view, is unwittingly sending people to the lions, essentially. He doesn't know it. Because I can tell this is a nice guy, honestly. I can tell. And I don't want to get in between anybody and their money. I understand how the world works. Unless they're really super bad and I know they're doing a bad thing. Pay attention, Joe. But this particular case is, I just don't think he understands what he's getting involved in, and the reality of, even if has a successful transplant for 5 years, which is a short period of time when you think about it, so many of the people that follow him are going to end up jumping down this road, taking this path, and they're going to be really unhappy. And that's something that you have to live with. You have to sleep at night. And if this guy happens to be listening, I just hope that he takes this in the spirit that it's meant. I think that he has really good intentions, to be honest with you. He seems like a really nice guy. He's developed a nice following for himself. He's working with some specific companies. I think that's terrific. But this is surgery, my man, real surgery with long-term, life-altering consequences. 888-659-3727. Let's take a phone call. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey.
Hey.
Hey, this is John from Austin.
John from Austin, how are you, man?
Hello, John.
Hey, I'm good. It's great to be able to call in. You never know when you can get through the line.
Tell me about it.
So,
what's happening?
I have a question. I have a question about finasteride, but before I ask, let me give some context. So, I was watching a video of a guy who stopped using finasteride after many years because him and his wife wanted to have kids, and this is a guy that was bothered by hair loss and has a channel about hair loss. And after 30 days, he lost all of his hair and started to feel depressed.
I know. I know who you're talking about. The guy in Korea.
Yeah. I didn't want to call him out, Joe, but yeah, that's the video I'm referring to.
I did a reaction video to his update a couple months ago.
I saw that video, Joe, and I was curious about the situation, so that's why I'm calling in. And so anyways, after 30 days, the guy lost all his hair, started feeling depressed, lost his libido, and started to feel suicidal. And he kind of made a point about he was most worried about feeling suicidal rather than anything else. And as I'm watching the video, I'm thinking, you're feeling suicidal because you're losing your hair again. And so my question to you guys is, which is almost rhetorical, is there a link between finasteride and suicide?
Joe, you want me to handle this?
Yeah.
Okay. There has been there's been some stuff written about it online. There's been some information that were put into more of a survey form of studies about a possible link without a causal effect. Now, what you said to me really makes sense. You know, you've been saving your hair for a long time, or you've been doing well on the drug for a long time, and you get off of it, and all of a sudden you notice a significant telogen effluvium. There's a good chance you're going to be depressed. If you're noticing some sort of a sexual dysfunction because you've gotten off the drug, because your hormones are starting to balance out, absolutely you're going to be focusing on both issues. There's been that we are aware of, there's been no data showing any causal effect between the use of finasteride and suicide. Now, there has been, again, anecdotal data where patients who felt they had post-finasteride syndrome, and it was written about that they ended up ending their lives. But as far as the drug causing depression, we don't know. But it's like anything else, serotonin uptake inhibitors, reuptake inhibitors, other drugs that you take, antacids, believe it or not, women who are taking, birth control pills. I guess it's possible because we are, altering our hormones to some degree. But in my 26 years in the field and over 30 years researching and writing about it, and me taking the drug for well over 3 decades, I've never known anyone in my personal life. No one's ever called the program in 26 years to discuss that. And at least in, as far as our IHRS members and other doctors, there's never been any reports during any of the conferences or meetings of someone who started to take finasteride or got off of finasteride and felt suicidal because of the drug, or because the drug was out of their body. So I don't want to diminish how this guy is feeling. I don't want to diminish what he's going through. But I think it's, at least in my view, based on all the experience I have, it seems unlikely that the drug actually caused him to feel suicidal.
And I'll chime in with that just because I remember watching a couple of his videos, or several of them actually, doing the research for my own reaction video. I think that in general, and not speaking about him in particular, but in general, some people are more susceptible to influences in their life that lead them to some sort of thought process that includes touching on suicide, losing your hair at a rapid pace, especially after having worked so hard to restore it, because he was doing pretty good on finasteride. He was getting some good improvements. You could see that he was really impressed with it and he was happy with it. And then to make that decision, which, I understand. I've dealt with, I can't remember how many guys, countless numbers of guys that have done the same thing where they decide to go ahead and stop taking it because they're planning on starting a family. total respect for that. Total respect for that. I can't say I wouldn't do the same thing in the same situation. But when you go through something like that, especially from where he started and then getting to the point where he did, only to have it all crumble before his eyes, literally, in the mirror over a very short course of time, that in and of itself could trigger the feeling of desperation because he can't do anything about it. He still hasn't, at that time he hadn't conceived or what have you. I mean, he's got a family, but trying to do it again, he's got to wait. And I can't imagine the anxiety that he's experiencing, on top of the fact that he knows that all I got to do is just, be successful. We can. I
feel sorry for that kid. Again. I feel sorry for that kid. His or her entire life is going to be like, I went bald for you.
I went bald for you. Can you believe? Yeah, the resentment. Yeah. But I think that the answer to this is, in my view, I don't think that there's a correlation with the medication. I think it would be the mental anguish he's going through watching his hair disintegrate before his very eyes because he went off of the medication, and combine that with the fact that, if I recall, I don't want to state this as fact, but maybe I recall him saying something about having depression in the past. I don't know. I think I remember that, but I could be wrong. But even if he didn't, some people it just takes a little push to get them in that mindset. So, I don't think that there would be a correlation with that. And as Spencer said, there's nothing that he's heard. I've never heard from anyone relating that to their use of the medication.
Well, I want to make it clear that I have heard people relating it to the use of the medication because they've gone online, they've read every possible scenario on all these help sites and the lawsuit sites and all that stuff. But at least
I meant in the literature.
Well, in the literature they have to write about it. So anybody who reports it is written about. But again, it's just anytime a drug is out in the wild for a certain period of time, if certain side effects that are being reported, even if it's just a relatively small percentage of people, the pharmaceutical company is legally bound to put that in their side effect sheet. Basically, reported side effects once the drug is in the wild. With that said, not saying doctors know everything because they don't. Trust me. But I don't know anyone in the field that has ever discussed this. There's never been anything presented on it. No one ever presented anything on it at Global Hair Loss Summit or any of the ISHRS conferences. And if this was something that was a significant phenomenon, we'd be hearing about it in the conferences.
Right. And I don't think there's a correlation either. Like Spencer said, I don't want to diminish whatever that guy is experiencing, but to me, it's clear as day that you're losing your hair. It's something that has affected you in the past, and that leads to depression. And then if you're depressed, you probably don't have a high libido. If you don't have a libido, you probably are going to feel not good. And so it's just interesting to see how people relate certain things to finasteride and other things when it's more mental than an actual correlation.
Well, everything's mental. Listen, if you don't think you can get it up, you're not going to get it up. That's just the way that it is. I was watching the Rogan show, and there's a comedian, I forget his name, forgive me, not that he's watching the show, but he was talking about some sort of scenario where, women today, they get very offended if as soon as they show you a boob, you don't have an erection. And he's like, I don't think women understand how this thing works. And the last thing you can see, the worst thing you can say to a guy is, what's wrong? It's over. You're done.
Right.
If she wants if she wants the end result to be positive, don't say a word unless it takes an hour. And then you can be like, are you feeling all right? Or whatever. But my point is, as soon as people started to think about it, It will not happen. If people concentrate on some sort of sensation also, like, oh, I feel like my penis is numb or whatever it is, what do you think is going to happen? Your dick's going to be numb. Now, again, that's not to diminish the real adverse side effects, but I can tell you there has to be some sort of, and there's no data on this, but I can guarantee you that a significant percentage of men who are suffering with these significant adverse side effects from this drug are dealing with the nocebo effect, I guess it's called, or placebo effect, nocebo effect. And
nocebo.
Yeah, and that's just the reality. Before 2005, you barely heard about adverse side effects. I was already on the air for 6 years. And then there was a website that went up, and bingo, it took off. And there was maybe, 20 people who were, actually it was 2 people initially complaining about it. And then it was 20, and then there was 100, and then maybe 1,000, and then everyone was like terrified. Even in my Instagram, when I suggest what, a celebrity may have done, I did a remix, I guess it's called, on George Clooney, this Dr. Gary Linkoff or someone, this other doctor was saying that he thought he had a hair transplant. And I said, I don't think he did. If anything, he may have used the drug finasteride, whatever. I don't know. All these people wrote, oh, great, forget, I'd rather be bald than impotent. Or finasteride equals, like whatever. They showed like an emoji of a wilted eggplant. This is what's in people's minds.
Yeah.
Was that comedian Theo Von?
It wasn't Theo Von. It was another guy, and I forget his name. He's a funny dude.
He's got a lot of funny dudes on there.
So anyway, man, to answer your question, we just did. I feel bad for this guy. He got off finasteride for. Honestly, if I was young and I was going to have a kid, and I would say this on the air all the time, even though there is no data showing. I know so many people that have had children with no problems. There's not one case in any of the literature anywhere in the world where you can find any adverse or any birth defects caused by the guy taking finasteride. With that said, I would have done exactly what he did. So, sadly, it just sucks.
Yeah, it's. I understand what he did. It's just the correlation that he made, and I might have to see the video again if he directly relates it to finasteride. I think he did. Was what was interesting to me.
Well, it's funny. The whole YouTube generation, the Instagram generation, the putting your life out on video generation. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I think that it could be very beneficial for a lot of people. But, everyone is searching for what they're interested in. And there's a group of people who gravitate towards the negative, and there's a group of people that will gravitate towards the positive. And there's also a certain segment of the online population that I can't explain it. This is a guy who had great results. This is a guy who had no adverse side effects. This is a guy who was stoked about his progress. And he probably did plenty of research before he got on the drug. So I just think that he's in a panic.
Yeah. Same here.
But who knows? Mm-hmm. Again, I don't want to diminish his reality because it's real. What's happening to him is very real. Why it's happening, we don't know. But we definitely know why he's losing his hair.
Yeah, and to add on to that, I believe he made another video and everything went back to normal.
Oh, well, that's good.
And so it could have just been a temporary thing. This was a 30-day after stopping finasteride video. But anyways, you guys answered my question as always. So thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
All right, you take care. Thanks for the call.
Yep, no worries.
Take it
Thanks.
easy. Phone number is 888-659-3727. I know we're all privy to these videos and to this information. I just don't spend any time watching them. And I'm not saying that that's a great thing. But, I'm dealing with hair loss almost 24/7. I don't want to go on YouTube and watch everybody's stories and everybody's concerns and everybody's guidance. And, if you have an issue, you bring it to my attention. Maybe I'll take a look at it. And I also don't want to fluff off anybody who may be doing a really good job on these platforms. That's why we have started the American Hair Loss Association Trusted Content Provider or Trusted Content Creator Program. We just gave that distinction to the hair chemist, by the way. And
nice.
I told you that.
Congratulations, hair chemist. Nope.
And we are working on taking the time. It's going to be a slow process because honestly, dude, I mean, I don't feel like working. So it's a process.
I wasn't expecting that one, but yeah I get it.
It's a process. So anyone out there who's like, oh, why don't I have it? It doesn't mean that you won't have it. And then there's people out there who gives a S about that. Well, that's fine too.
Yeah.
Whatever. But we want to try to make it a safe environment for people. So at the very least, at least they know if they're an AHLA trusted content creator, at least they know that the majority of the information that's being provided is factual, that these guys are not selling out. If they are, to some degree, it has to be with a product or service that is appropriate, that can actually help you. And that's it. We're not going to control their content, but if things get out of hand and all of a sudden someone decides to really sell out big, I told this one guy this. I said, look, you do what you want to do, but if we can't be associated with your brand, then we have to pull that seal. And that's what I'm telling people in advance. I'm not here to tell you to not make money. If you see an opportunity and you're like, you know what, F it, no one helps me out, I'm going to sell out, I'm going to make $1 million. Good for you. I mean, that's your choice, I should say. But we can't be associated with it and help you make that $1 million.
Yep.
Let's take a phone call. Gotta get Joe awake. You're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Good luck.
Happy Easter, happy Passover, happy Good Friday. To my fellow hair loss sufferers, remember one day the Easter Bunny will bring us a cure.
My name is
Joe from Staten Island.
excuse me. My name is
Would you like to may I reiterate it?
My name is
Have you heard it? Excuse me.
My name is
Joe from Staten Island.
Joe from Staten Island, man. It's great to hear your voice.
Staten Island.
How are you?
How you doing, man?
I appreciate that.
Happy Passover.
Holidays, Spencer, and happy Passover, happy Easter, happy Good Friday to Joe and Spencer.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Happy Good Friday. I don't know what is Good Friday a happy occasion?
No, it's a sad occasion because in the Christian faith, I don't know what your religious background is, but in the Christian faith, Jesus was killed on this day.
Yes. So I didn't think it was so happy.
They
But on Sunday, Sunday he gets resurrected.
Yes, that's theoretical.
Yeah.
That's the Christian faith dictates that.
Right.
Personally, I'm Christian, but I do have my, I'm not sure your background, Spencer, or Joe's background.
You know my background. I'm a Jew. I'm Jewish. I'm a Jewish man.
But a lot of people in the Jewish community are for Christ. Are you aware of that?
There's Jews for Jesus, for sure.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So I'm saying...
Look, I root for everybody. I'm rooting for Christ.
I know that.
Listen, this guy comes back, I'm all in. I'll be a believer.
I'm all in. I'm a supporter.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. My studies have shown, I'm a big believer in the afterlife. When we go to the afterlife, we'll all have full heads of hair. I believe that 100%.
Dude, there's like Larry, the Curb Your Enthusiasm. Larry David dies, and he's in heaven with a full head of hair. It's awesome.
Now, right. I called about a month ago. I have to retract one statement.
Yeah.
for the audience and yourself. I have to apologize for this. I stated that nothing has really changed since 1998 when I called you initially on that Saturday evening, 11:30 on WABC radio.
Yeah.
You know what? A lot has changed because back then there was very little research. Now there's hundreds and hundreds of companies doing research. We had no product, but there is a lot more research than there was. Could you give me an opinion on that, Spencer and Joe?
Well, I would say that there are not hundreds and hundreds of companies, but there are more companies that have jumped into the research arena. Some of the companies out there, in my view, are essentially just doing it for eventual to put out eventual cosmeceuticals. I've been in touch with a company recently that is starting to advertise heavily on Facebook and other social media, who is coming out with a new physical device, not a laser helmet, but something similar. Well, similar as far as the way that it's used or utilized, but it has nothing to do with lasers. And there's a couple of pretty well-known academics that are behind it. But of course, they're going right into sales mode. So we're going to be investigating it and speaking with the company, and hopefully it's something that's positive. But in many cases, there are companies or there are researchers, scientists in quotes, that are kind of working with venture capitalists. I know that Rasmussen's involved with this one guy. Bill Rasmussen's involved with one guy who has been, I don't want to even mention his name, but he's been doing a lot of research. There's been a lot of press about what he's been doing, but now they're opening up a company. So who knows if what's going to come to fruition.
His name?
His name is Pincus. Pincus? What's his name? Maxim?
Plickus.
Maxim something. I forget his name. I can't pay much attention to it because so far we know that nothing's come to fruition. But that's why we have Hair Loss Cure 2020, who, by the way, is also, which I don't think we sent him a seal yet, a AHLA trusted content creator. He'll be able to display that soon. He provides a lot of great feature information. Go ahead.
I am a student of Hair Loss 2020. I view it every day.
That's awesome, man. Well, he provides a great service, and I really think it's important that whoever goes to his website understands that, it's a trusted resource.
Yes, but unfortunately, we don't have a hair loss cure by 2020 like he stated. That's one thing I have to,
Yeah, but he can't change the name now. It's too late.
Yeah. It's too late. He's married to it.
Yeah. I would have been more like 100%. Hair Loss Cure 2040. But what do I know?
With a question mark in parentheses?
Yeah.
Well, in 1977, Dr. Orenreich told me there'd be a cure by 1980. I guess he was wrong.
Yeah, in 1986, Orenreich told me the same thing. But not 1980, but he said in a couple of years. We're getting close. Yeah, Meanwhile, try out these grafts for $25 a pop and see how you like them. I chose not to.
Just try them on for size.
Yeah.
Did you meet Orenreich personally, Spencer, or you met a member of his staff?
No. I met him. First you meet a member of his staff, and then I met with him personally. And he had this really kind of ornate old school office. What is it, on Park Avenue? And it was just like
Fifth Avenue. Fifth Avenue.
Wood shelving, and bookshelves. And he shows me this like photo album of these pictures. They look like they were like original Polaroids, like the type you had to use the solution to make the picture come out. Yeah. And he's like, this guy still has his hair. And I implanted this in 1966. And I'm looking at this image and I'm like, this is not impressive. This is scary to me.
Yeah.
So yes, okay. I did meet him personally, and he's one of the reasons why I decided to write The Bald Truth.
But Spencer, did Dr. Orenreich dictate that you be injected with progesterone injections?
He did.
Did he bring that up to you?
He brought it all up to me.
Do you subscribe to those injections?
I did not. I as soon as he told me that I should try, if I was his own son, he would tell me to try a few and see if I liked them. I was like, I got to get the F out of here. there is something. And
There's
then
a
he's like,
Spencer-shaped hole in the wall.
and then he's like, I see you have an ingrown hair under your chin. Like this guy's staring at me because I could have my assistant take care of that for you. I'm like, oh, okay, thanks a lot. She takes out the ingrown hair.
Bye.
He gives me a bill for $230 in like 1986.
That's right. I was just about to tell you that.
Yeah.
That's right. He told me I had a callus on my finger. I said, okay, remove it. $285 in 1979.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding.
I know. This guy was, let him rest in peace, but Jesus. The damage that this guy did, and the fact that he's honored by the ISHRS, and there's like an award in his name, I think, at this point.
Yeah, that was bad.
It is an effing disgrace. It really speaks to just the insanity of this field and just how corrupt this field is. To honor these butchers. Sorry.
But it wasn't just him. It was him initially. Then he caused many other doctors. He created...
Walter Unger,
he created multiple
the Unger
doctors.
family,
Right.
the whole thing. Look, I was just published in Unger Shapiro's latest book. Now, my deadline was 6 years ago. Apparently, I was the only person that actually made the deadline. And I'm writing about social media and stuff like that. I mean, I think I may have even mentioned MySpace in that chapter. But whatever, you know.
That was the best delivery, best deadpan delivery. I made the deadline. It was 6 years ago.
Yeah. but you know, this is the way these guys operate, man. So this textbook that these new doctors are going to get their hands on. This is supposed to be the textbook in the industry. Is completely outdated by almost a decade, more than half a decade. But anyway, you're absolutely right. You had Chambers and the Ungers and all Larry Lee Bosley, who created the, he was one of the guys that really created the price per graft. Carlos Puig, all these guys who are all, Carlos Puig is still one of the grand poobahs of the ISHRS. Think about that. Mm-hmm. Think about that. I remember when he came to me at a conference once in Vegas years ago. I was pretty young. He was loaded. This is a true story. And he's telling me, you don't know what it was like. You know, I mean, that was old technology you're talking about. We've evolved the field. And I'm just like, look, you saw what people walking back into your office. You saw what they looked like. You had the choice to no longer do that. If you thought the technology was unsophisticated, why provide it to these patients? He couldn't answer me. And that's a true story.
I do remember you saying that years ago. You brought up the same thing with Dr. Puig, whatever his name is. I remember you
Carlos
saying that.
Puig.
Obviously, it's true. You did say it several times. I remember that. Years ago, you were talking about that.
Well, because it happened.
Right. Let me ask you a quick question. I only have to go, but and you and Joe, I want your opinion. My son Vincent, I think I spoke to you. He's 21 now, okay? And he has obviously the gene from me, and my wife's father was a no at 6, and I was a no at 6. Now, he's 21. I had hair loss at 17. Is it possible, in you and Joe's expert opinion, that maybe he got my father's gene, that he escaped his gene?
It is possible, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you also have a wife,
100%.
right? You have a wife. What's her hair loss genes like?
Her father was a no at 6.
Right, but what about her mother?
Well, mother had hair. Her mother's telling me that I don't know. I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Yeah. So essentially, he's down to less than a 25% chance of getting your hardcore genes.
That's pretty good, because he told me, he requested I ask you this. He begged me. He didn't want to call. He's very embarrassed. He asked me.
Here's the good news. Here's the good news for you, kid. It's amazing that he's a grown man now. The good news is that he's already 21 and he has no signs of hair loss. That's huge. Mm-hmm. That means there's a really good chance that he's going to make it through his 20s unscathed, or hopefully relatively unscathed. Very important part in our lives, as you know. So that alone is incredible.
As you know, I've studied his scalp. He has zero. I'm not a medical doctor, as you know, but I do have some expertise.
Yes.
I've studied his scalp, and he has absolutely no signs of hair loss.
Okay. Just make sure that he doesn't go
fantastic.
out. Don't get him a densitometer. None of that happy horse shit that the zealots will try. They'll be looking for miniaturized hairs. If he doesn't notice any shedding, and if his hair has not changed at the age of 21, he's in better shape than at least 20 to 25% of the population who are dealing with male pattern hair.
Would you mind if I transmit this to him?
I don't know how you plan on transmitting it, but you could tell him, maybe face to face.
He'll transmit on his computer on Monday. He'll study the show.
He can look at the show. Let him know. Listen, if you're watching the show, kiddo, there's a very good chance that you escaped early onset male pattern hair loss.
Well, actually, he's not watching the show right now because he's working. But I will present this to him for him to study the show, and you make him. You know what? You and Joe and Spence, you'll give my kid a happy Easter when he studies the show. He'll feel good.
Good, and I hope that he has a happy Easter.
But unfortunately, under my influence, as you know, he's a little bit paranoid about his hair. Thanks to me.
Yeah, well, you used to give him an empty bottle of Rogaine with water in it so that he could walk around and spray his head when he was a child. I mean, think about that,
You
Joe.
have a good memory, Spencer. You have a very good memory. That's true. Joe, Spencer's telling the truth. I did state this before you on the show. My son was 7 years old. It was well before your time, Joe. I used to give my son, Spencer's accurate, a bottle of Rogaine with water in it. He just applied to the scalp twice a day.
Yeah. My dad...
And now you're asking why he has great hair at 21? There you go.
Yeah.
You got him early.
My dad basically gave me a razor with no blade, and I would sit there next to him and shave with him. That's what my dad did. That seems a little bit more normal. Now, a lot of what my dad did wasn't normal, as far as shit that I had to do as a young kid. And, the fact that I grew up fast and go to work at the age of 8. It's like an Abe Lincoln story.
See, my dad gave me he'd get an empty Coca-Cola can and fill it with beer and have me sit there and drink it with him. I think he got it backward.
He did. He did, but that's very funny.
Well, speaking of that, let me say one more thing, please. I know you're close. I had a violent fight with my father yesterday. He complained to me that his hair is growing so fast at the age of 95, he looks like a gorilla. And he said he was cursed with all his hair, and I wanted to choke him.
I can understand.
I'm sorry to say that.
I bet.
95 years old. This cat has a Ronald Reagan head of hair.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
I would have taken 25% of his genes, and it would have been okay, right? Right, Spencer and Joe? Am I correct?
He might have been. He might have been.
Maybe. Yeah.
You might have been.
25% of the right genes. Yeah.
Listen, you've finally gotten past it, Joe. So what I don't want for you is to, and I love the fact that you're calling the show, but I don't want you to regress. I don't want you to start watching this and, as you say, dissecting everything and getting too far into it and then worrying about your hair again.
Well, I got to tell you, my wife forbids me from calling the show. So I'm at my sister's house now. I'm going to call the show when she's not around. I'm in Long Island now.
Really?
So she forbids me to call the show because she told me it did unbelievable psychological damage to me. She told me.
She said what?
It did a lot of psychological damage to me by association with the bold truth.
Listen, and I can understand that. I think that it may have.
Maybe she's right. I don't know.
Yeah, dude, I think that that it may have. So I when you decided not to call anymore, part of me was like, this is going to be good for Joe.
Mm-hmm. No, I was in a deep depression, man. Well, you know what? We can't go the past. Yesterday's history. We're going by today. Am I correct, Spencer?
Absolutely, man. But listen, now we're going to take
one more quick thing.
Yeah.
One more quick thing. I want to congratulate Joe on his show, the main event. Am I welcome to call your show, Joe?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Yeah, you are welcome to call the show. Love to have you on.
Well, will your staff reach out to my staff?
Pardon me?
Will your staff reach out to my staff?
My people will call your people. We'll set something up.
Okay, good. Okay, Joe and Spencer, happy Easter, happy Passover. God bless you all. One more thing. I love you, Bull Jerry. If I don't mention Bullet Jerry, I got to mention Bullet Jerry. I love you, Bullet Jerry. God bless you all.
Right, buddy. God bless you,
Right.
Joe from Staten Island. We'll talk
Take
soon.
care, Joe.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Good night, gentlemen. I love you guys. Bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
888-659-3727. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air.
Always
Who's
a
this?
good time, Joe.
And where are you calling from?
Hi, Adam from Wisconsin.
Adam from Wisconsin. What's happening, man?
Hello, Adam.
I'm still smiling over Joe from Staten Island talking about how his father.
That's awesome.
His father has a full head of hair, and he just wanted to choke him because he thinks he cursed. Like, dude, give me a break.
That's Joe, man. So what's up?
Yeah.
That is...
I just wanted to kind of rewind to what the first caller was talking about having a kid while using finasteride.
Sure.
And I'm only 25, so I'm planning on having kids one day, hopefully. And I guess I just wanted to call just so I wanted to get your guys' input on what maybe if I should get off of this when I'm having a kid, because I used to be like addicted to the forums, and I would read different things. Some guys would have kids on finasteride and their kids turn out fine, and then there's always the scare of that that those kids don't turn out fine.
Well, here's the thing. Having that in the back of your mind, say your kid seems normal, and all of a sudden, he's diagnosed with autism or something that's very common. In the back of your mind, you're always going to be thinking, did I F my kid up? So that's the reason for me, if I had chosen to have children, I would have gotten off the drug, even though it would have been very emotionally difficult for me. But I would have made that choice. Now, statistically, according to everyone in the medical field, according to the drug company, but I can understand why people don't necessarily always trust pharmaceutical companies, especially given what's happened the last 3 or 4 years. There's been no adverse side effects when it comes to, or no birth defects that have ever been reported. But you don't want to be the anomaly.
Yeah. As someone who's a very anxious person, it would definitely always be just, in the back of my head if I, had a kid and, all of a sudden it's time for him to hit puberty and, he's just not functioning like a normal kid, just not getting that natural, stage in his life, something's going on. It would always be in the back of my head. Like, sure. I couldn't live with that guilt. So yeah. I take finasteride, and I know that the half-life is months longer than finasteride. So I definitely plan ahead if I had a kid, and I would make sure I've been off of it. But I guess I'm just calling about two things. How long is that half-life where I'm in that safe zone from dutasteride, and I could one day have a kid? And my other question is, with topical anti-androgens coming out, I guess not coming out, they've always been out, but just being becoming more popular. There's like talks of all these, I don't even know, it's Brazula and just other things that are coming out, that are in clinical trials. Can somebody always switch over to that, and hop off the dutasteride, but just as a preventative measure, just take topical anti-androgens instead of dutasteride and still be safe from hair loss, but also still have a kid?
Well, let me ask you a couple of questions first. You're 25 years old. Do you have a girlfriend?
Yeah.
Okay. And you're hoping to marry this girl?
Yeah, I like her. We're new.
You're new. Okay. So you have no idea what's going to happen. You may not even be thinking about having a child for another 10 years. You don't know.
I'd like to have kids by the time, and by the time I'm 30, that'd be nice.
It would be nice, but you're new with this girl. Who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Maybe you get engaged in a year. Maybe you get engaged in 3 years. Maybe you get engaged in 4 years. Maybe she doesn't want to marry you. Maybe she's going to, F around on you. You have no idea. So I guess my point is, it's good to be prepared, but I wouldn't be too anxious about it at this point. Number one, because you have no idea when you're going to procreate. Now, obviously, if you're not using protection, there's always a possibility of an accidental pregnancy. You don't want that to happen either. So my first bit of advice is while you're on this drug, if you want to ensure that you're not going to get this person pregnant, you should probably wear a condom. How do you feel about that?
Absolutely. Always do.
Okay.
Never going wrong.
Okay.
Okay.
And
Are you wearing one now?
Okay. Joe's actually sadly interested.
Joe from Staten Island's accent kind of got me. Going. I like that East Coast accent.
You have a lot of good questions, but the thing is, so dutasteride really, on average, it's not going to be eliminated from your body for about 4 to 5 weeks, maybe 6 weeks after you stop your last dosage. So,
is that of dutasteride or finasteride?
That's dutasteride.
4 to 5 weeks. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Probably more of an average of 5 to 6 weeks. So it has it stays in your body, serum levels for a long period of time, and that's also why if you have any what?
I actually have the NIH guide on dutasteride half-life. Half-life of dutasteride is known to be 5 weeks in humans, so it takes at least 5 to 6 months to wash out. In addition, 6 months to 1 year is usually needed for restoration of the structural and functional changes caused by long-term dutasteride treatment in various organs.
Even better. So you're in more screwed. You got to stop a year before you decide to have a kid. Exactly. Thank you for that, Joe.
Yeah,
I
was
appreciate
expecting
that.
Months.
I should have looked it up.
Yeah.
But I chose to rely on my faulty memory. So thank you.
This one was a tricky one. It's like, wait, that one's tricky. Remember, it's different than finasteride.
Yeah. So, yeah, man. So, you better sit her down and say, look, I want to have a kid by 30, so let's figure this out now because I got to get off this drug.
Are you in?
Totally. Yeah.
Are you in or you're out? Because if you're not, I got to find somebody else. I got to swipe left or whatever you do. Swipe right? What is it?
I'm gonna schedule here, baby.
Yeah. So that's the situation, man. And as far as getting on topicals, we don't know. Listen, everybody and their mother is jumping on topicals or selling topicals, whether it's subscription-based companies or physicians, because they all know that everyone is there's a large percentage of people that are afraid of long-term adverse side effects from finasteride or dutasteride. They're afraid to get on the drug. So everyone is pimping out their own topical finasteride and now topical dutasteride. Does it work? Do these products work? Some do. Some are more effective than others. So yes, you can maintain your hair using topical anti-androgens, topical 5-alpha reductase inhibitors, for sure. But is it going to be as effective as a systemic drug? In my opinion, and I'm not a doctor, but I did hear Jerry Cooley say this on the Main Event the other day. No, it wasn't Jerry. It was Aaron Nussbaum. I believe you're going to have the most effective results from taking the drug orally. It's also going to affect every hair follicle on your head. Whereas compliance and applying these topicals properly to really give you the same effect, it's going to be almost impossible. It can be done, though. So, yeah, it's better than nothing. And I think that these alternatives are great for people who suffer from side effects or who are really scared to take the systemic or oral medication.
Okay. I guess I do. I'm sure there's some factors that could help I get is your concern mostly about just like absorbing the drug topically? Because I do use also, I'm on minoxidil, topical and oral. I'm just playing around with the oral right now, finding the right dose. I called about this a couple weeks back. I'm on a very, very low dose of oral, but I still use the topical because, yeah, just trying to find that balance, just trying to find what works best for me, because I called weeks ago and I was having some heart palpitation issues with the oral, and I'm playing around. I'm on a very much, I'm on like 0.6. So like I quarter a 2.5 milligram of oral, and I take that once in the morning, and then at night I apply the minoxidil.
Well, here's the thing: if you're applying anything topically, it's good. It's very difficult to get the exact amount on the exact area of the scalp every single time you apply it. Most people just kind of rub it in their head, and it's really pell-mell, haphazardly, and they hope for the best. And yeah, you're going to see some with minoxidil and other topicals. You're going to see some growth, but there's no way that you can get the exact amount of drug into your system to help your hair follicles or to slow or stop the miniaturization like you would be able to if you took a pill. That's just the way that it is. But people have to kind of, weigh their options. A lot of people just don't want to take oral medication, or they've not done well on it. They've had adverse side effects, and they want to give topical a try. And there's plenty of people who are seeing great results. I see a lot of. There's one doctor who's been sending me a lot of his patients' photos, and they're real photos. They're taken well, and you could see a significant change. So topicals do work. Topical finasteride, topical dutasteride, for sure. But it's about compliance and the way that you apply it, and it's a pain in the ass. That's it.
Yeah, definitely. But it's still in your system. Like, it's still...
it has to be. There's still a systemic effect. That's just, it's absorbed through your scalp. So it's in your body, but there's not as much circulating in your body as if you took the drug orally.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you want to be completely unconcerned about effing up your kid, then you probably shouldn't be in any of that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's definitely just, like you said, something, it's going to be a talk in the future, when that time comes.
Yeah. How do you even know you can have kids? No, you don't know anything yet. You're 25 years old. You don't know what you're worrying about a future that may not even happen. Sadly, that's just that's the way it is. Right now, you're taking medication. You're doing well on it. Enjoy your hair. Enjoy your relationship. Don't worry about it too much. Try to have as much information as you can before moving forward with impregnating somebody, and do your best not to impregnate anybody accidentally. But the reality is, statistically, there's been zero evidence of any birth defects from a guy who's taking finasteride impregnating a woman. So that's, God forbid, or whatever. If you do impregnate your girlfriend accidentally, just take solace in that fact.
Yeah. But has there been any studies specifically on this, or is it just from clinical trials when this is going through clinical trials?
It's also, it's also about the drug being in use. There are millions of guys who are taking Proscar, 5 milligrams, even younger guys. They're impregnating people. And there are millions of guys who've been on Propecia for a very long time. I have many friends. Well, I have 4 friends who've all had children when they were taking finasteride. One has twins. That's Spencer Stevenson.
They are joined, but that's...
Yeah, but that would have happened anyway.
Discussion. They are Siamese twins. Not saying there's a correlation.
Conjoined, and Siamese twins is racist, apparently. Can't say that anymore.
Conjoined. Okay,
Yeah.
whatever.
We just don't know. That's the thing. We don't know. You don't want to be the anomaly. I doubt anything would happen. But, you already sound anxious about it. And like you said, what happens if everything seems fine? Okay. 10 fingers, 10 toes, everything's okay. Normal level of intelligence. Genitalia looks relatively normal or normal. Everything's good if you have a boy. Great. Goes through puberty, loses his mind. You're going to think it has something to do with you.
When it's actually TikTok.
Yeah, when it's actually the virtual reality porn in his room with the hologram chicks.
Those weird dances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know? Which I actually can't wait for. Let me tell you something. I already put my down payment on the robot, so.
I'll see you at Adult Con.
All right, brother. Good luck. You know what? Enjoy your youth right now.
He even knows what it is.
Yeah, enjoy your youth right now. You don't know what's going to happen with this girl. You don't know when you're going to have a kid. It may not be for another 15 years, maybe in 10 years. And by then, who knows what we're going to have available to us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just nice to call you guys. You guys are somebody who knows a lot about this topic, and, just something just trustworthy source,
Well, we appreciate that.
Thank you.
And I'm glad that we're
now
still
get out
here.
there and crush it.
Yeah, go out there, live your life, make money, dude. Number one. Then have kids.
You got it, guys.
All right,
Thank
brother.
you so
Take
much.
care. All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Take
Bye.
care.
888-659-3727. Just talking to a friend of mine. He's sending his kid to private school, kindergarten in Manhattan. Guess how much it costs?
Per year?
Yeah.
100,000.
$60,000 for kindergarten.
I was going to say 50, but I was like, no. Kindergarten?
$60,000. And the key is, in New York, it was kind of like this when I was a kid, but it was so I remember my dad, let him rest in peace, complaining to my mother about tuition because she wanted us to go to private school, being it was like $5,500 a year.
Yeah. What?
Yeah. And
jeez.
I mean, I got a good education, but still, think about that. That wasn't that long ago. Let's see who this is.
Oh.
What? I graduated in 1983, dude.
Oh, jeez. It's older than my car.
Dude, I've been out with people who were born in 2000.
I don't know how to process that one.
Well, you don't have to. But it's fun to process. 888-659-3727. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Alex from San Diego.
Alex, how are you, man?
Hey, Alex.
I'm doing pretty well. Spoke to you guys a few weeks back after my first consultation
that
I'd ever done, and I've done about 4 so far at 4 different clinics in Southern California, all with doctors from the IHRS.
Okay, and tell me how they went and how they differed and what your thoughts are.
Yeah, they were all different. They all recommended a different number of grafts for my case, which I suppose is to be expected. Everybody has their own vision, I suppose.
Absolutely.
But,
that's the way it works.
Yeah, and so I've just been sort of really just doing my research as both of you really try and impress upon people, is that research is so important. I mean, this is a life-changing decision that you're making. So you got to do your research. And I guess my question is, at what point down that rabbit hole, what kind of boxes can you check potentially that might make you say, okay, I think I've done enough research. I think I'm armed with enough information, and that that surgery is a good choice for me. Sort of a convoluted question, but curious your thoughts.
Well, it's a convoluted question, but that's why I'm going to let Joe answer it, so he can give you a convoluted answer.
Well, what puts me in that position where I can, finally say I found the one is when they say yes to whatever my demands are. Simple as that.
Is that right?
No, not even close. I'm just kidding. That's I say that because that's what's happening with a lot of clinics. They're getting these patients coming in, and they're either the patient is dictating to them what they want and going, and when they say no, they move on to another clinic until they find one that says yes. Or it is that, the other, there could be a clinic that's saying, yeah, sure, we can do that for you, because they have the motto of the patient knows what they want. I can't stand that approach. In fact, that exact line, I'm taking it from someone in the industry that I know, that I used to argue with on the merits of clinical ethics. And I couldn't believe that he took that position. I think it's very careless, but I think that there's no hard answer on that. The question is, how do you know you've done enough research? You have to feel it in your gut, for one, but it usually is never a conclusive feeling. Or I think it shouldn't be. Let me fix that. It might be a conclusive feeling, an absolute, but it shouldn't be. And I say that because you should never let your guard down as far as what you're hoping to achieve versus what's being offered and what's being told or recommended for your case by a clinic. And I say that because when you're too comfortable with things, you tend to overlook red flags. And yeah, that's about what I can say on that. But when you know, but it's healthy to keep a healthy bit of skepticism. So if you go into a clinic and you've been to 4 already, it does help to reach out and, we can talk to you about your consultations or what the recommendations are, but you have to say to yourself, okay, this makes more sense than what these other guys are saying. They're lining up with what I think is necessary for my case, or they presented a compelling argument as to why my expectations are not, or my wishes are not valid. And I think it just comes down to that. You weigh the pros and cons of each clinic, who was honest with you, who was upfront about the realities of the surgery, and just go from there. I mean, it's really tough to quantify it, but a lot of it comes down to your gut after you've done your self-education. You've looked at the pros and cons of each clinic. You've been challenged by the clinics. You've challenged the clinics, and you find one where everything lines up based on that. Sorry, I'm getting a lot of echo. And then just go with it, or make the decision. You know what? There's a little too many question marks, too much of a question with each of these clinics. I'm going to keep looking, or I'm tired of looking. Maybe this isn't for me because no one can make me feel 100% about this. I'm going to try other non-surgical options.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm pretty data-driven, so it was interesting to see that 3 out of the 4 clinics recommended a pretty conservative hairline design, I would say. Closer to like an old school Justin Theroux looking hairline, for instance. That sounds familiar, but and that was comforting to have that data and get a sense of reality where all the doctors were pretty upfront about saying you're going to need at least 3 surgeries, most likely, if you want to go down this road. which was
Really? Okay.
helpful to sort of. Yeah, I guess they just estimated based on my perceived hair loss pattern and future loss that they were estimating that might be.
And I just want to let you know that is a rare find in general. A lot of doctors are really, they'd be concerned about telling you that truth. They'd say 1 or 2 surgeries, and even if they knew that you probably want more or need more, they would get you in the chair. Maybe they would say, yeah, you're probably going to need more than 1 procedure, and not necessarily tell you how many they think you need at the point of sale. So
right.
I'm really glad about that.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, thanks. That's super helpful. I think I'm just also the type of person where I feel like I will never complete enough research to make a decision like this. It'll just never be enough for me. So it's
Dude, I can't buy a toaster on Amazon. Okay? The reviews destroy everything for me.
That's right. Yeah, you got to be careful.
Yeah. All right, brother. You have any more questions while we have you on the air?
That's it for now. And yeah, thanks for your time.
Okay, man. Good luck. Keep us posted.
All right. Thanks for calling.
All right.
Take care. 888-659-3727. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hello.
Hello.
You guys hear me?
Yes.
Hello. Yes.
Hey, Joe. It's Bart on the line.
Oh, hey, Bart.
From Belgium.
Hi, Bart. How are you, man?
Oh, fine. How are you guys doing up there in sunny California, I hope?
Yeah, it's a beautiful day today here in Southern California. I mean, I was able to really smell the homeless.
Very good. Well, it's
That's good.
beginning of April, and we had 3 sunny days in Belgium so far. So
that's awesome. So what's happening?
Listen, you guys. I want to chip in. I've been in the industry since 2003.
I remember.
And and so I did like hundreds and hundreds of consultations with the physicians, and You said something earlier in the program about, finasteride and side effects. Now, I have a very similar experience to what you mentioned, in such that when I started, I mean, there was internet, but there wasn't a lot of people researching on the internet, I guess, and the word finasteride wasn't very well known, I guess, to most people. And back then, everybody was put on finasteride. And you know what? Years and years went by, and I rarely or ever had complaints about it. I had a lot more complaints about minoxidil because it's greasy, it's sticky, I don't know what. But finasteride, it hardly came up. And as the time progressed, as the internet grew and the word finasteride became more popular, and then at some point, some people reported some side effects, which I don't deny, but suddenly everybody was like, if I talk about finasteride, it's like, oh no, dude, don't even mention the word. I'm getting the side effects already now.
Yeah. Bart, I'm so glad that you called to bring this up, because you are in the field. You have your own clinic. You were a patient, one of the first FUE patients, by the way. And, you have a unique level of experience being originally a forum guy who was kind of in the, watching everything that was happening in the trenches before you had your hair transplant. You got yourself on finasteride, and you started to work in the industry. And, you've been doing this for 20 years now. And for the first, I would say until 2005, 2006, nothing. I had an occasional caller who called about adverse side effects. I had a book that was selling like hotcakes for years, and people had access to me through mail or through my email. Nothing like that. There was no talk of permanent adverse sexual side effects. It didn't exist. It didn't exist in the population of men who were taking Proscar at a much higher dosage. So
I'll tell you, and I'll let you know into a little secret.
Yeah.
I did a test with a couple of my friends, right? I mean, I wouldn't do this on real patients, but these guys came and asked me for advice. So I said, well, you have this pill, finasteride. They didn't know anything about hair loss, finasteride, stuff like that. So I told them that this is this pill. You have to take it once a day, and it will probably stop your hair loss or slow it down,
indefinitely.
Very, very good. Yeah. And I had like 5 friends. I think it was 5 or 6 friends. And so I told them, listen, there is a slight possibility of a side effect with these pills. They said, whoa, what might it be? I said, you might get sexually aroused by it. Just the opposite. Just the opposite of what people are telling. And you know what? I think all of them told me later, yeah, that pill works great, man. It was sugar. It was sugar pills,
Yeah, it's like Viagra and finasteride combined.
Yeah, but it wasn't Viagra. It was just sugar pills I gave them. I mean, I had them prepared, So I'm like, okay,
that's good.
All right, well, whatever, So this is a true story. So,
Oh wait, so wait a second. Let me get this straight. So you essentially didn't give them any medication except for fake medication.
No,
and you told them that's a very fun.
Just sugar pills.
That's an incredible story because I was speaking to a doctor. I had her on the air. This was years ago, and she had mentioned something about her telling her patients that some men, more than is being reported, who take finasteride are actually more they have more sexual prowess. They are more amorous.
Mm-hmm.
And then she told me that like 90% of her patients said that this is the greatest thing. Because in their mind...
Hey, hang on. Was it a female doctor?
It was a female doctor, yeah.
All right, okay.
But I thought that...
You gotta throw in a bag of salt, maybe.
Now, but I think that's interesting because there is some, in some cases, so she wasn't lying, where it does, make a person more amorous and it increases their libido. So she brought up that side effect and focused more on that as opposed to focusing on the negative adverse side effects. And in that practice, guys were claiming they had more boners.
Well,
Now,
so,
my question, Bart,
guys,
is did their hair loss actually slow down?
I don't know. I don't know. I think they got divorced later on in life. But
Fair
anyway,
question,
I don't know if you guys read my comment. And my comment was about DNA test. Have you ever talked about that in the program?
A DNA test?
Have we? I think
we have, yeah.
Yeah.
I was involved with the first
you
company.
have? Okay.
Yeah, I was involved with the first company doing DNA tests for...
Which one was it?
Hair DX.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think this is a revolutionary. I mean, we have another company. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to mention it. It's a Belgian company anyway. And, they do hair DNA test on saliva, right? So you don't even have to draw blood, spill blood. And it comes back after like 4 weeks. It's performed in a lab in Barcelona, specialized lab. And when the tests come out, I mean, when I first started working with these tests, I couldn't believe my eyes. Because, in order for finasteride or minoxidil or something else to work, your body has to be able to process this, right? You can take a kilogram of finasteride, but if your body can't process it, it's not going to do anything for you. Does everybody agree on this?
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I saw
or
with my
if your
own
body
eyes,
if your body doesn't process it correctly.
Yeah, right. So, and I've seen hundreds of DNA tests passing through, and a lot of them. I'm not joking. A lot of them tell you point blank, finasteride is not going to work for you. So all these people, that go and start on finasteride should first take a DNA test just to make sure they're taking something that's going to actually work. And I'm always telling, take the guessing out, because most doctors, and you guys know this, well, here you go, use this minoxidil, take it for 6 months, come back and tell me what you think of it. But the DNA test just takes this out of the equation. It will really tell your doctor, don't give him minoxidil.
To be
it's not gonna
fair,
work for him.
To be fair, Bart, and you know that I understand this because I took that test, if you recall, about a year ago, was it, or a year and a half ago?
No, it's a bit longer, but since then, of course, all the DNA testing has progressed. I mean, there's no definite answer. I mean, if you come back in 5 years, DNA tests on hair will be a lot better than today. I agree.
Yeah, but that particular test told Joe
nothing.
that most of his ancestors were from Seoul, Korea. That's the problem.
It's Busan, actually,
right.
but yeah.
No, I recall a different story. I think it said like Joe is a female, but he pretends to be male or something. I don't know.
That's possible.
Well, no, what it actually said was that I will not respond to finasteride, and that dutasteride would be the better. I had the receptors, or I had the genetic predisposition to react more favorably with dutasteride. But in reality, I had actually been taking finasteride for 20 years, and I did have an actual improvement with finasteride. And when I took dutasteride, I did not have an improvement whatsoever. In fact, I had bloating as a side effect. So that's what I was asking. We're talking about this. I had this done a year and a half ago, and so you're telling us now that the technology's improved since then.
Oh yeah. They just brought out a new version this year, and I'm not into DNA. I mean, I'm not a scientist, and I don't know a lot about DNA, but they're telling me they're doing like 48 strings or something. I don't know what they call it, but it's improved quite a bit.
I just want to tell you, and
yeah,
this, again,
I'm a believer. I'm a believer.
I'm totally open to all this.
You
but
cannot argue with DNA.
Listen, I'm totally open to all this. We've had two companies who've contacted us through the American Hair Loss Association, who obviously wanted to carry our seal. And at the time of, when we took a very close look, we realized that, there was a group of guys in one particular small case who seemed to be responding very well from finasteride. And this particular test said that they would be a non-responder. So at least at the time, with these two companies, we were unable to provide them with the American Hair Loss Association seal. But I will tell you this. I believe in the technology, obviously, and I think that with the right set of parameters and the right type of test, it may be very possible to give people a heads up on whether or not they're going to have adverse side effects potentially or be better responders. So I definitely think that it could be a good thing if the tests are accurate.
Well,
I agree 100%. I'm a huge believer in DNA, and I think the idea of DNA testing to understand, to have like a foreshadowing at the very least of what to expect from various treatments or procedures, not just hair but anything. I think that's extremely valuable. The problem is getting the technology down pat to where, like you said, they came out with this particular company came out with a new version that's great. That's the thing, is these kinds of things need to be constantly refined and upgraded as far as how the data is interpreted. Because like you said it best, you can't argue against DNA, but you can argue against how you look at the DNA. And that's what needs to be improved or is being improved. I'd be interested to know about the differences with this new variation. That's actually interesting to me. Yeah, so I think it's valuable for sure. Once it's refined to the point where it's reliable, 100% of the time it would be good. I don't know if we'll ever get there, but I think it's a huge rabbit hole to go down, because it's not just the testing; it's understanding the mechanisms of how each procedure that you're testing for actually works as well. So if you're looking at dutasteride, finasteride, you have to understand exactly how they work. And when you talk to the manufacturers, they don't know exactly how it works 100%. Same thing with minoxidil. No one can tell anyone right now exactly how minoxidil induces hair growth. All they can tell you is it expands the vascularity of the scalp and brings more nutrients, but they can't go any further than that I'm aware of. Same thing with laser. No one can tell you about laser. It works in some people, but no one knows why. And that's the big challenge. It's like you got the DNA on one side, you got the test on the other, and you got every treatment that you're trying to interpret in the middle, where no one can explain how all these things work. Most of them, it's a lot of guesswork. So it's not just the testing that needs to be refined; it's the understanding of these treatments in the first place. So there's a long way to go as far as I'm concerned.
But Bart, listen, first of all, I appreciate the fact that you called. Your story is great with the sugar pills, and you're absolutely right. You know, having someone who's been around in the trenches like you for so long, who's been on finasteride for so long, who's seen it all, you know, been involved or have witnessed the forum battles of the original forums and probably Alt.Bald Spot and Hair Loss Help and all the places that don't even exist anymore. You were right there. You saw the true evolution of FUE. You know the history because you went along, you know, you were one of the first guys who had a large case and a complete case of FUE surgery, a successful case. And that's what prompted you to get involved in this industry. So, yeah. I mean, you coming on, you should call more often because actually this is interesting stuff. People want to hear the history and the truth. And you're able to tell the truth. You know, it's not just us telling everybody, look, we didn't hear about these side effects back in 2005. And we were doing this. I mean, I was on national radio. I was on like 20-something stations in the biggest markets in the country. Thousands of calls a year, and no one was talking about that. And nothing.
So did you have a similar experience? Because I remember that you did a lot of consultations back then, right?
Did I have a similar experience with what? The people coming out talking about side effects?
The volume of people complaining about finasteride increasing exponentially.
It all started with one guy, and I actually know a lot about the guy that started this movement. I can't go into it, but I know a lot about him. But it started with one guy, and he started complaining on a forum, and that's when it snowballed. I think it was 2006. It might have been 2005.
I think it was 2006, actually.
No one complained about sexual side effects before that. I hadn't heard a single complaint. The first time someone brought it up to me, I was like, huh? It was weird. By this time, I'd already been a consultant for 3.5 years. But I'd been around before that as Joetronic on the forums for 1.5 years before that. So almost 5 years. No one was talking about this. No one. It wasn't until generic finasteride first came out, and then that was when the first mention of a side effect was. Well,
I mean, I heard about. So I'm going to, at least in my case, I heard about adverse side effects, but no one was even concerned or talking about the potential of long-term adverse side effects after discontinuing treatment. It didn't exist in the online world, and it didn't exist in our world, and it didn't exist in the clinical world. Now, I'm not saying they did find some evidence that was kind of kicked up that Merck may have suppressed some information as far as people who discontinued the treatment because of adverse side effects for at least a short time. They felt that they had continuing adverse side effects, but they never followed up on this. And it was a very small group of people. So that was somehow left out of literature. But with that said, in the real world, we didn't hear anything. What was that?
Here we are, 3 guys with fairly, similar experiences. And, it needs to be also said that side of the story might be true, that the side effects are a buildup of, social media. I don't know how to call it, but, I know for sure that
in my view, it's a form of mass hysteria.
Their husbands were all on finasteride.
Yeah.
And they never had, how many children are born per year with, some kind of defect?
Yeah.
And then you should ask your the same. Oh, how many, fathers of these children were on finasteride?
Well, listen, you got the big
You
bucks.
know
You
what I
should
mean?
conduct a study, man.
Well, I don't have to because I know the answer.
Yeah.
And you know the answer too.
Listen, Bart, I've been on the drug for over 30 years, or about 30 years now. If I felt it was having any adverse side effects in that department, think I'd be taking it? Forget about it. It changed my entire perspective on life. The reason I wrote The Bald Truth is because of my success or my ability to slow or stop the progression of my hair loss at the time. And I was able to step back and look at the industry for what it really was, which was, it was real shit, and write about it. But if it wasn't for this drug, I wouldn't be sitting behind this mic today, 26 years later.
Well, it's still shit, but it's a different kind of shit out there, and you guys know what I mean.
It's worse because the shit has been
just a different kind of shit.
The shit has been scaled to a level that I could never have imagined.
Yeah,
it's bad.
I'm
man.
sad about that. Really sad about that.
Well,
I'm following some forums, not like I used to, but sometimes I see patient advisors, and this happened recently, just a couple of weeks ago, writing point blank on a public forum, to a guy, I think he was 25 years, just get a hair transplant. That's all you need.
Yeah.
I'm like, nope. I think this is a patient advisor. And, I'm like, what are these guys thinking?
Dude, I have a patient advisor that follows me on Instagram, and he was starting to disagree with some of the stuff that I was saying. And I'm like, how long have you been working in the industry? Like, this guy just had a hair transplant a couple of years ago. Now he works for this company in Australia. And
I know who you're talking about.
And he's
I already know who you're talking about.
He's making certain statements that I'm thinking, wow, you are either incredibly naive or I think it's more that he's naive. I don't think he's purposely misleading people. He really believes this. But
hey,
it's
listen, guys,
a mess, man.
I'm going to have to let you go because, I think it's around 1:30.
Let you go? We're trying to get rid of you.
I think so.
All right,
Thanks
Bart.
for having me.
Bart, listen, it was a
Take
pleasure,
care,
man.
guys.
I really enjoyed the call. Thank you so much for calling. It's good to hear your voice.
All right, take it.
Thanks for calling, Bart. Good to hear.
Bye-bye.
Good to hear from you, buddy.
All right.
Yeah, take care.
Let us go. I'm texting Joe. I'm like, how do we get rid of this guy? No, it was a good call.
I like
good
Bart.
to hear the history.
He's one of the original FUE patients in anywhere actually outside of Australia, because he went with a doctor that jumped on the FUE bandwagon very early.
Yeah, who I walked through. I walked through every step of the procedure. He's like, yeah, I think I can do that, and he went for it, man.
Yep. And oddly enough,
he didn't get effed up.
Bart's result turned out really good.
Yeah,
really good. And
an anomaly.
And then he it was an anomaly, and he got into the industry shortly after that. And
it's life-changing for him. You're welcome, Bart.
Yeah, he's been doing good things in Belgium. I've been to his old clinic. Lovely wife as well. Good team.
Very nice. 888-659-3727. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Hello?
Hello.
Wait. Oh, Spencer.
Yes.
Oh, hello. Oh, sorry. I'm watching you on my TV, and then I've also got you on my phone.
Well, it's going to be delayed on your TV.
Wait, I'm not sure if it's you. So I'm not sure if it's me you're talking to or not. It's hard to tell.
Well, I am talking to you.
Oh, yes. Beautiful! Yes. Okay, awesome.
So you may want to turn down your television.
Okay, this is the first time I've ever called in, and it's actually the first time I've ever caught the show. I've watched many of Joe's videos, actually. Like, I've watched his hair transplant journeys, and and in his last one, I know a lot about Joe. I know like somewhat about you, Spencer, for the last few years.
How about I could just connect you with Joe?
No. Either or. Both of you are great. And I'm very grateful.
Thank you.
Speaking to either of you.
Thank you.
I'm from Scotland.
I'm glad I'm recording this one.
I apologize for my accent.
No, your accent's great.
I feel like I have a very unique situation. One I feel you've probably heard of before, but as of right now, I am 25 years old, and I started experiencing hair loss at 14.
Oh, wow.
It started off, it started off like very minor at the hairline and whatnot, and it was very slow. It was very slow, and I didn't do anything about it until I was about 19 years old. And that's when, like, I noticed that the thinning, like, really started to, like, recede. But it was still very minor. I was, like, if we're going by the Norwood scale, like, a Norwood 1.5. So I went to a dermatologist, and then I actually got the first 6 months of brand name Propecia for free, which I thought was, like, really cool. So I started taking the Propecia. I started taking the Propecia, and within the first couple of months, I noticed that my hairline actually started to go back faster, which I know is completely against the studies. And believe me, I've read them all. And I continued with it. Like I was typing a lot on Hair Loss Talk. You know the forum, Hair Loss Talk. Yeah.
Sure, man.
Yeah. I'm actually Anxious Andy, if you know who that is. I imagine some of the readers probably know who I am, because apparently I'm quite well known on there, but I can't get on there anymore because that email doesn't exist and I can't get back onto it. But I have my whole journey like documented on there. But essentially what I felt like was from 14 to 19, I felt like, sorry, not from 14 to 19. From when I got on finasteride from my 19th birthday to 20, which took up to 12 months, I felt that my hairline went back faster. So I was very concerned. Yeah, I was very concerned, obviously. So I was reading on the forums on Hair Loss Talk, and of course you read all the horror stories that I took finasteride, my hair got worse. I took dutasteride, my hair got even worse. And then that really freaked me out. So at that point...
That does happen.
Yeah, I've heard. But then I've also like read from people saying, well, yeah, okay, you're on finasteride, but if you weren't on finasteride, it would have got worse even faster. And to be fair, yeah, that could be true. Yeah, that is definitely true. But I felt like from 14 to 19... when I wasn't on the drug, that it was extremely slow.
Yeah.
Up until that point when I took it. Yeah, and from the first month of taking it up until the year I took it, but more specifically the first 3 months when I was in the shower, I was washing my hair and hairs would come out. Of course, that happens anyway. I would look at the strands and this was so weird. It would be like nice and thick up until a point, and then it would become extremely thin.
Right.
And the club, the little club of the hair,
right,
would be, you could tell, like, it was so strange. And I kept on with it up until the year, and things did not get better. It actually got a lot worse. I was originally, when I started, a Norwood 1.5, we could say, and by the end of the 12 months, I was a 2. But it wasn't the hairline that receded. It was at the sides of the hair, where the temples are.
Sure.
That went right back to where the sideburns were. Yeah, just right back to that, like what a Norwood 6 would look like with the hair on top. That's what that looked like by the end of the year. And I was typing on the forums. I was really concerned and whatnot. So I started oral. Okay, this is where my regimen becomes extreme. I started on oral cyproterone. No, I didn't start that yet. Spirolactone, sorry. I started on 150.
You were put on oral spironolactone?
Yeah. I wasn't put on it. I took it all on my own accord because my doctor wouldn't prescribe it. So I was taking this on my own accord.
Right.
And I was on that for about 8 months, 150 mg 2 times a day. And I saw no improvement. And beyond that point, I was worse. I was about a Norwood 2 at that point.
Did you have to buy a bra?
But no.
No, okay.
No. Hey, that's no.
Totally shocked him with that.
I appreciate the laugh, though. But
all right, good.
No, but this is a serious thing. And I saw no improvement at that point. Right. And at that point, I was coming up on my 2 years on finasteride, which I saw no improvement, nor with the spironolactone. And I'm a young guy, okay? And I'm 26 right now, but at that time I was 21, maybe 22, and I was desperate. So I started taking cypretone acetate. And I know that's not what you want to be doing or nothing, but that was actually the first time I actually saw my hair loss, like, slow down. Like, I stopped shedding so much in the shower, and...
Did you have any adverse side effects?
Oh, yes, of course. Like, I'm not going to lie. And I still don't have gyno, though. Like, I'm quite a fit guy. Like, I'm not, like, overweight or anything, but what I did notice was my milk, if you want to call it, no longer existed. But I read up about this beforehand, and I heard it was reversible. So, I'm still young, and I do care about my hair a lot.
Sure.
So I persevered with it, and that was the first time that I ever did notice my hair loss slow down. So what I'm getting at here right now is, I think what I suffered from when I took finasteride the first time was, this is pseudoscience, and I'm not sure if it's true or not, but I believe this is what happened to me, is that reflex hyperandrogenicity.
Yeah.
If you've ever heard.
Sure. I mean, they've been talking about that. There's originally a guy by the name of Dr. Proctor out of Texas that first started to bring that onto the old school message forums, which was alt.baldspot before there were message forums. And a lot of guys would talk about when they felt that they were losing ground when they're on the drug. That is what he started to write about, to the point where everyone thought they had it for a long time.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's actually pseudoscience. I think there is some science behind it, so it's kind of just like maybe not well-known science.
Yeah. Yeah, like when I posted about it, when it first started happening, when I first started taking finasteride, like, that's what a lot of other forum users said. It's pseudoscience, that I was lying and whatnot. And of course, like, I know my own hair. You know, I see it every day, and I'm obsessed over it. And I was, like, literally looking in the mirror every day, you know, like, measuring it. And because I have, like, what's called a freckle, I was able to measure it from the freckle and see it, like, creeping up.
So let me ask you, how are you doing now?
How am I doing? I'm doing much better now. Hair-wise, I'm doing much better.
Okay.
But I've not got to that point of the story yet. Like, I had to take more medication on top of finasteride. I'm still taking finasteride, which I do believe I do need. But I'm pretty sure how reflex hyperandrogenicity goes is that because when you inhibit DHT, more is produced, or it's more testosterone that's produced, which I believe that maybe my hairline is more susceptible to testosterone. And anyway, after like 9 months of taking, it wasn't cypretone, it was, what's it called? Sorry, what did I say it was called?
Cyclosporin?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's the first time I've ever been on a live call in a podcast.
Same with Joe. Don't worry about it.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
And after 9 months of that treatment, I started taking cypretone acetate, which is even stronger than spirolactone. Yes, spirolactone, yes. I dropped the spiral, and I started taking cyprotone acetate, which is a much stronger drug, and I don't want to be on this for the long term, but I'm still on it. I've been on it for a few years now, but at the time, that was the first time I actually noticed my hair loss slow down. I noticed, less on the pillowcase, less in the shower, and the bizarre thing about it is, and I don't want to call it bizarre, but when I looked at my hair strands, and we all know, like, a hair, like, grows at, a centimeter a month or whatnot. From when I started taking finasteride, it went from thick to absolutely thin. But from when taking cyprotone, it went from thin to thick.
Wow.
On the same hair strand. It went from thick, because my hair's quite long. Like, I like having my hair long. So I had my hair long from before treatment, which was nice and thick, and then it went down, and you could see it from when I started finasteride. It went really thin, through spirolactone, didn't do anything, and then from cyprotone, it started getting thicker again. And I was like, holy crap. And nothing grew back, though. But everything that I did have got thicker.
Well, that's positive.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. But I'd rather not be on these drugs, but it's still great, that these treatments do work.
Well, let me ask you, I mean, now that you're 25 years old, you've been dealing with hair loss for such a long time, is there any part of you that thinks maybe I can move on at some point and see what I look like with a buzz cut or something?
Oh, absolutely. Like, I've buzzed before, and I've got a nice head shape, and that's something... Like, I was actually pleasantly surprised about that, but I imagine, like, yourself and Joe, like, hair is a part of your identity, and it's hard to let go,
Of course.
Of course.
Yeah,
it's hard. It's a $1 billion industry.
Right, and but my question, the reason I asked that question is, there are some guys who, you've been dealing with it for a decade.
It's part of my identity.
Yeah.
And, well, I don't plan on being on this forever, at least until we get the cure, whatever that may look like,
Yeah.
I've been saving up pennies. But,
okay, so as of today, with all this, intense regimen that you're on, which just to let our listeners know, you are certainly taking what some people would consider to be significant health risks. You are young, and you don't have any, it doesn't seem like you have any severe adverse side effects at this point.
Yeah, I've not even finished my regimen yet, Spencer.
Okay, well, real quick, before we take a call, finish it up.
Oh, okay. Anyway, after I noticed that the spirolactone was, like, almost reversing my hair loss, it stopped the thinning and the receding. It got thicker again. I started taking oral minoxidil, but not just any oral minoxidil. It was topical, and I measured the doses from the syringe at 10 milligrams and started dropping that on my tongue every day, been for the last 4 years, and my hair has never been thicker. My hair is the best it's ever been right now, sir.
So you're dropping oral minoxidil on your tongue?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
10 milligrams measured from the syringe from 1 milliliter.
Well, I mean,
it's horrible.
If you're not having an issue with the propylene glycol or the alcohol.
No side effects that I can notice.
Yeah.
Apart from obviously what I said, there's no milk, just to be PG.
Yeah, so your seminal fluid. Now, what are you
with PG?
But you're able to bust out some dust though, right?
Yes, I can get it up. I can do all that. It's just not much comes out. And I know this is certainly not a regimen for anybody, most people, but I'm just saying that I started off with finasteride, and I believe that made it worse. And I was able to counteract that with extra treatment. I believe finasteride is beneficial for most people, though. I just wanted to, share my story.
I think that's actually. And listen, you went hardcore, my man. And there are guys out there, and I've known them for years.
One day I can top it down, though.
Yeah, well,
I don't want it.
I hope so. I hope so as well. But I'm just saying, you're obviously not alone as far as doing this hardcore gray market regimen. I mean, there are plenty of guys who are online posting about it for years, for decades. So you seem to be one of the lucky guys who don't have any severe adverse side effects. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I don't.
You continue, but you should definitely, you get yourself checked out. Do you go to a doctor on a regular basis, at least to get
yes, I actually have been to a doctor. Yeah, and my DHT is very low. My testosterone is very low, but it's apart from that, I'm healthy. I don't want to be on these drugs for the long term.
Yeah.
I'm just on this until. Yeah, of course. I'm just holding out for that cure. It's tough when you're young.
Of course,
it's tough when you're young.
Of course,
yeah. Joe will know that. Of course, yeah.
Yeah, and
yeah.
Joe knows. I mean, Joe was like what, 11?
12.
But Joe was close to your age. Joe was like 17 years old when he started to notice it.
Yeah.
Or when other people started to notice it.
When it was pointed out to me. Yeah, when other people pointed out to me.
Well, listen, brother, I'm glad that you are safe and you're healthy and that you've found this treatment regimen to help yourself.
For the meantime, my hair is good. I'm just holding out for that cure, just like all of us, right?
Well, keep listening. If you have, call in anytime you want, or we appreciate you taking the time to call from Scotland and to.
I'll be yes. I'm here for the rest of the stream or the rest of the podcast. So thank you very much for your time.
All right, you take care. Good luck.
Thanks for calling in.
You too. You take care. Right. Thank you. All right. Goodbye.
Wow.
All right. That's heavy. But there's a lot of people out there who have no problem experimenting. Let's face it, when I started, it was totally experimental. I took a drug that people tell me not to take. Doctors were like, what are you thinking? And I did it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, this is another subset of the whole hair loss and hair restoration fight online of people, a subset of people that are not only willing to, they're anxious to embrace this. It could almost be classified as the bro science type of segment where they're trying anything and everything, coming up with their own combinations of things in the quest to stop hair loss or to reverse it. And it's not my thing, but it's there, and it's actually, there are a lot of people that do this, and I can appreciate it to a degree. Like I think some of it goes too far, but I loved hearing this guy's story because he represents a lot of what's going on out there, and I'm glad he called in to share that, because I think people need to hear about it.
They do, but I like the idea, and I try not to poo-poo the gray market stuff, even though I just tell people that I would avoid a lot of it. But when I was young, taking finasteride was a risk. People thought,
Yeah.
And so I have to pat some of these guys in the back for, they're willing to experiment on themselves and write about it or talk about it. And in a way, it's kind of like a double-edged sword. Will the guys that are out there who are basically living, breathing human guinea pigs, who are documenting this data, will they eventually find the combination that doctors may not be looking for? It's a possibility.
Never rule anything out.
I'm not going to do it.
Especially in today.
But,
yeah, I'm not doing it, but they can.
Appreciate you guys putting your lives on the line. And this guy sounds like he's going to be okay. 888-659-3727. We want to take one more call, but we've got to keep it less than 5 minutes.
Yeah, let's do it.
So it's possible I won't let you. You can't answer any questions, Joe.
Ah,
See? You miss me when you're doing the main event. I know that.
I
Let's see who
do.
this is.
I actually do.
Hey, you're on the air. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hello?
Hello.
Hey, how are you guys?
All right. How are you, man?
Good. My name is George. Calling from Vancouver.
George from Vancouver.
Oh, hey,
What's
George.
happening, man?
Welcome.
How are you guys? Good. Sorry, I'll make it quick. I know you said, Spencer, make it quick, so I'll try to make it quick. First-time caller. I had a hair transplant about, 3 years ago from eugenics. Joe recommended... I messaged Joe on Instagram, and he recommended them. So I just want to say thank you, Joe. Great result. Amazing.
Okay.
And then where was it going? Oh, yeah, question. So I want to use 5% minoxidil, start to use it just because I see some thinning in the crown. It hasn't really changed over 5 years or so. But it's thin, and it's not thin enough to get a hair transplant. It's just thin, right? So will it make my... I asked this in the live chat. Will it make it more difficult for me to get a hair transplant in the future? Because I remember you saying this years ago, I think, and I wasn't worried about minoxidil at the time, but I'm thinking about using it now. So if you could just elaborate on that, I appreciate it.
Oh, shit. Now I have to let Joe answer that because he's got a lot of experience with this.
Yeah.
Thank you, George. All right. It really does depend on the clinic, but I think that because different clinics have different preoperative requirements for minoxidil use with patients. In my view, I don't care what any clinic says, it's indisputable that minoxidil changes the physiology of the underlying scalp to a point where it does make it kind of mushy when you're trying to make incisions, and it's difficult to perform dense packing. Sometimes it's difficult just even to see incisions because of the increased bleeding. And if you follow pre-op instructions, say you stop 2-3 weeks before surgery, if you are a long-term user, those changes do not necessarily reverse in that time frame that the clinic is set up for you. I remember being in a situation where a patient comes in and they had actually been off of minoxidil for 6 weeks, and the doctors were coming out of the OR complaining, saying, we might need to change our preoperative protocols, our requirements, because I'm having a hard time with this guy. And the point of this is anytime you go in for a surgery, the last thing you want to do is make anything more difficult for the clinic. That's why I'm not a big fan of long hair transplantation. Extractions or placement. I think that makes, I know that makes things more difficult. Because a clinic doesn't say it doesn't mean it doesn't. That's a whole other discussion. But when it comes to minoxidil, there are clinics that have no requirements. There are clinics that have 2 weeks. Some clinics have 1 week. I don't think it matters if it's less than 2 months. To be honest with you, you need to think about this. Is it minoxidil that you want to try, or maybe try something else like finasteride or dutasteride or
I've been on
oral minoxidil
forever. I've been on finasteride forever.
Okay.
So
you might want to talk. You might want to talk to your GP about maybe considering oral minoxidil, because it's in your bloodstream. It's not being applied directly to the scalp. There's no delivery vehicle that can help to exacerbate the issues. That's not so much of an issue. It's strictly a vascularity issue. It doesn't have much to do with the tissue. It doesn't make it. I didn't cover this, but it actually, topical minoxidil actually makes the tissue like gristle and steak. That's the description I was told when making incisions. So oral minoxidil probably isn't an issue. So if you want to try that, that might be a route to consider. Talk to your doctor. I'm not one.
Yeah. I appreciate it. It just, I have a full head of hair now, but it's just kind of thin. Maybe I'm just getting a little hair greedy, so I might not fuck with it. So yeah,
probably.
Fine. Thank you. Yeah,
it happens. Yeah, you're welcome.
Hair greed, man. Don't do it.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, brother. Good luck.
All right. See you later. Bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
All right. We are done for the evening. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Joe Tillman from the Hair Transplant channel.
We need to
mentor
congratulate
person.
ourselves. We started on time at 3 o'clock.
It's easy.
That's momentous. We started at 3 o'clock. Well done. And to me. Patting
Mazel
myself
tov.
on the back. Okay. Continue.
All right, guys. Happy holidays. Happy Easter for all the people who do that.
That do that kind of thing.
Do that kind of thing. That's it. Wanted to thank everyone who tuned in to the broadcast. We do this live show every Friday night. But Joe Tillman actually does his own program on the Hair Transplant channel. That's youtube.com/Hair Transplant Mentor. It's called The Main Event. Get it? MANE.
Are you going to say that every time now?
Yeah, that's what I say. Makes me laugh.
The Main Event.
Get it?
Get it? Hey, don't blame me, man. That's from Chat GPT. It named it for me.
Look, yeah, it really goes to show you that AI could really F with a person.
It really can. It really, really can.
No, it's Joe is putting himself out there on a daily basis to answer your questions. I don't have the time. It's not that I don't want to do it. But you know what? We'll make Friday the special event of the week.
That's what the main event is building up to.
Right.
There's the main event and then the special event.
That's right. So anyway, guys, check that out. That's Hair Transplant. I'm sorry, that's youtube.com/Hair Transplant Mentor for the main event. Also check out Joe Tillman's page at hairtransplantmentor.com. All of it is in the description of this show if you happen to be watching it. But if you're listening to it, you got to go to his page to see that on YouTube. So until next time, be strong, God bless, and thank you all so much for listening. Have a good night.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the programme, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you.